Sometimes life goes sideways. Other times, you make it go sideways, intentionally, steering with the throttle. That is the world of drifting, the fastest growing motorsport in the world, with no signs of slowing down. But what is the sport of drifting? U.S. drifting pioneer and the man behind Drift 101, Naoki Kobayashi's knowledge of drifting is unmatched.
To me, the best way I can put drifting is the intentional act of getting a car sideways through a navigated course. The intentional part is the most important part that I like to define when I'm talking about drifting, mainly because it has to be done with a particular skill and it has to be done through a course. Otherwise, it's just showing off, it's just spinning out. So I really stress the word intentional and navigated course when I talk about drifting.
Intentional is not the word that always comes to mind when watching drifting, with drivers on the fine line between road grip and lack of control. But it's a line that has existed since tires hit the pavement.
Don't sort of define drifting as something that happened 20 years ago. No, it's been around for years. You know, ask your parents, ask your uncle. They'll say, oh, we've been doing this. But now as far as how it's judged, particular class criteria, now it's a sport. Now it's called drifting. Now with drifting, how do you define something that looks out of control? Now you define it by how committed you are into a turn and still get judged on that. You know, remember that drifting is still subjective. In terms of judging, I would say the closest sport is probably ice skating.
Just like ice skating, but louder, with smoking tires. But there is even something like a pairs competition.
So tandem drifting, the objective is to be as close to the other car as possible. Follow the line and make sure you're right on that door.
Drifting and road racing may be on the complete opposite end of the sport spectrum. But at Nola Motorsports, there's room for all. Just minutes from the historic French Quarter, the park is your ticket to the fast lane, and the tracks are built for all things that are driven.
Today is the first drift test and tune of the season, so basically what this is a shakedown for everybody who's been building the cars over the off-season. Not that we have much of an off-season here in New Orleans.
Nola Motorsports has made a commitment to drifting by supporting the grassroots community of drivers looking to up their game.
We've been working with Formula Drift, which is the professional series here in the United States, and their Pro 2 is the step down from that, the semi-pro, if you will. And we have now a licensing series of competitions. We'll run 4 events this year, and that'll give you the opportunity to jump up into the Pro 2 license series, and at which point you'll be able to compete and then get into the professional series.
That commitment caught the eye of Kobayashi, who was looking to expand his Drift 101 classes from their Southern California roots. The rebellious nature of New Orleans and the track's facilities helped to drive his decision.
Definitely made a big commitment to be out here. I purchased 4 Mazda Miatas just to host my East Coast chapter, which is Drift 101 East now.
So we have, being that we are now a Pro-Am licensing series, and that 2 of the management members of the staff are now heavily involved in drifting. It's just a big focus for us because the community's building. So we are dedicating days like this throughout the season just to have people out here to get the seat time that they need to progress.
A couple hours at Drift and Tune and you can see why the sport is expanding so quickly.
It's a big spectator sport in addition to the fact that it's really fun to drive. So, you can have your friends in the car. You'll see it's so many pictures online of people, thumbs up out the window, waving at their friends in the car next to them. It's so fun.
It's an adrenaline rush. It's like nothing I've ever done before.
Why drifting is catching on is because it's just awesome. It's the only you know, it's the only thing you can do in a car that for how many years your parents told you, you're not supposed to be doing that, but now it's okay.
For Sierra, she went from spectator to driver for the very first time.
I've never drifted before. The furthest thing I've ever gotten to was doing a singular donut in my backyard in the wet grass. We'll see what the next step is from here. I think I want to do this more often. It's nice to have the outlet to do the crazy things that you want to do and not worry about anything. It's safe.
Now it looks like it's time for me to make the donuts.